Hi everyone, my name's Margie and I'm here to tell my story. And this is my awakening story. How I awakened myself and transformed myself entirely. I am Christ conscious, other words known as spirituality. I've never been closer to God than I am right now. And I want to tell you a story of a child who was put on a back burner from a toddler. First marriage, a player. Second marriage, a narcissist. But I was used to being put on a back burner because that's how I was raised. My mother always said, Margie can take care of herself. Her brother needs help. And my brother, he had dyslexia. And back in the 60s, there really wasn't a whole lot of schools that helped children deal with this. So my mother put all of her attention to my brother because Margie could take care of herself. And I remember as a child, we lived in an apartment building. I was about 2-ish, 3-ish. And I'm running through the woods because there was woods. Anybody knows me, I love the woods. And I was running through the woods and there was a golf course. And I was really interested in what these guys are out there doing, hitting this ball, this thing. And I'm like, oh, what's this all about? But then my mother always put me in corduroy pants. You know how they go shoo, 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 shoo. It drove them absolutely nuts. And they're like, little girl, go home. And then they come chasing me, trying to catch me, which they never did. But yeah, 2, 3-year-old running around the woods. Nowadays, CCP would have been called. But it's just, it was just life back then. Things were a lot better than they are today, not as chaotic. But my mother was right. I could take care of myself. And I did. I've always taken care of myself. I don't fear anything. You know, as a child, I was sexually attacked 2 times. One in another apartment building we lived in. Boy wanted to, he says, you want to see what your mom and daddy do? I was only about 6 years old and I'm like, okay. He took me in the basement and a janitor came in. He said, what's going on in here? And he looked at me, he goes, you get out of here, I'll take care of this. I never saw that boy again. And then the second time, it was a family member. I was so excited. This is my favorite cousin. I absolutely adored her. But she went to work one day and her husband attacked me. My father taught me how to deal with those type of people. So I did what my father showed me to do, and I locked myself in the bathroom. And he kept begging me to come out, and I said, call my aunt to come get me. And he goes, I will take you to your aunt's house. I'm like, And he promised me he would not hurt me if I opened the door, and he didn't. So I remember when I got to my aunt's, now keep in mind, I went on the back of his motorcycle to my aunt's, and I was looking at every way I could jump off if he did one wrong move, but he didn't. When I got to my aunt's after he left, she goes, and my family calls me Marcy. She goes, Marcy, what happened? I said, nothing. She goes, Marcy, what happened? I said, nothing. Because what I learned at a very young age, because I was put on the back burner, no matter what I said, I would be blamed for it. It was something you had to do for this to happen. I was just sleeping on the couch. He's the one that jumped on top of me. Excuse me. But years later, my mother said that my cousin had left her husband. And I said, oh, thank God he was a creep. She goes, are you going to tell me what happened now? I said, I will, but don't you ever tell Daddy because he will still retaliate. And she goes, I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. She goes, because you absolutely adored them, and then you wanted nothing to do with them ever again. I said, that's right, Mom. I did not want to be around that creepo ever again. So that was 11. I was 11 years old. My father, he was a player. My mother drank to get rid of her sorrow. And unfortunately, my mother was a narcissist. Women can be narcissists too. And after my brother went into the service, I tried to do what I could do to hold everything together until one day I said, how in God's name am I going to live in this house and graduate from high school? And then in walked my first husband. We got married at 16. I had my first beautiful daughter at 17, just 2 weeks after 17. 2 Virgos in the house. Whew. Growing up, that was fun. We both, we had our times. I love my baby dearly. But we went on to have one more child. And when I was pregnant with my second child, one of the serviceman's wife came to me and said, I think you need to go to this barracks because your husband is meeting up with women here. And I just found out I was pregnant with my second child. I was distraught. But something always told me he was up to something, always. So I went there. Yeah, there are a lot of women around there. And I'm pretty sure that was the day I said, yeah, this is not the man I'm going to be married to for 50 years. Because during childhood, I was always going to be married. Find the perfect man and be married for 50 years, have a beautiful life, 2 daughters, 2 boys. Go to church, just the picture perfect family. Anything but picture perfect. But I went on to have my second daughter. She's absolutely beautiful and so smart. They're both smart, both brilliant. And he continued on his ways, and I decided one day, well, 2 can play that game. And the whole time I did. I was like, oh, this is wrong. This is a sin. This is not who I am. I ended up leaving him. And then I had one more relationship. And he said all the right things, did all the right things until he had me, and then he treated my kids and I like shit. That ended. And for years I dated here and there. Nothing really serious from that point on. Until I met my second husband. I met him at work. And he changed his hours to match with mine. And, you know, my boss said, I think you need to pay a little attention here, Margie. You're not paying attention. And I paid attention. Probably should never paid it. I think my subconscious knew not to pay attention to this man. But when she brought it to my attention, I go, maybe I will. We went out, and he proposed to me on Halloween, which happened to be my grandparents' anniversary, who were married for like 67 years. So I thought, well, maybe this is a sign. And we got married. First 10 years were good. And then he started treating me like he treated everyone else. And I was like, oh, hold on here now. You don't talk to me like that. No. And he just kept beating me down, beating me down. I put on weight. I was unrecognizable to myself because my self-esteem went down the tubes. My confidence went down the tubes. My health went down the tubes. Everything about me was going south. Not north, it was going south. And I think the first time I should have left him is when he threw my mother out of the house. He cried for fear that I would leave him, but he never apologized for how he treated my mother. A narcissist will never apologize for anything because they do no wrong. You're the stupid one. You don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's an arc. And what I found out is I'm an empath. And narcs are so attracted to empaths because we have this big heart. We want to heal everyone. You can't heal anyone. They got to heal themselves. So I did end up leaving him. And that was due to something he did to me on December 31st, 2021. The most unforgivable thing. And he knew he stepped over the line. I was watching my grandchild, and he was always in my social media. Always in my social media. And as soon as my grandson was picked up, is he gone? Is your grandson gone? Yeah, I'm coming home. I'm like, no, you just stay at that other house. I don't want you here. We're done. No, I stopped drinking. I'm like, oh, you stopped drinking in one day? Ooh, this is exciting. No, I don't want you here. Well, he came home anyway. So he did quit drinking, but then he kept going back to his promised me he wouldn't do the bong anymore, but he kept doing it. And he just came right back to his nasty old self in no time, like that. Because he didn't think I'd leave. He didn't know me very well. And I I went to the other house in the mountains with my little dog. Her name is Zoe. She's a little basset hound, and she's been with me every step of the way. She's my angel. She even has angel wings on her back. I went all the way to Missouri to get her, and she's my angel. But I remember one day I looked at him, I said, you haven't touched me in, I don't even want to say how many years it was. And he told me it wasn't important. I go, really? Oh. So, me, I don't really like to retaliate. So I thought about it. And then the next day at dinner, I looked at him, I said, maybe you're okay living in a loveless marriage, but I sure as hell ain't. And I choose happiness. This is not working for me. And I said, these are the things you're going to have to do in order for me to stay. He didn't do one thing. And when I left him in January of 2022, like I said, 1 year after he did the most. Men out there, don't ever put your hands on a woman. The night he put his hands on me was the night he ended that marriage. And he did nothing to recoup himself. Nothing, because he's a narc. He didn't do anything wrong. I provoked it. So, and I don't even drink. So my friends that night begged me not to leave and not to go. And because he left, and he thought, we lived about 2 miles up the road from where we were. We were going out for New Year's Eve. And people were coming in and saying, there's a drunk walking up the road, he's going to get hit. And I remember my friend saying, Margie, don't. But I did, because in my heart, I knew if something happened, I would never forgive myself, even though he treated me like crap. So I picked him up, and he was a jerk. And he ran in the house and threw my dog off the porch, or out off the deck. I got her and made sure she was okay, and then he went to grab her again. And that's when it all happened. So, he ended our marriage that night. And then, as I went to my mountain house, Zoe and I, we walked, and we walked, and we walked. And I planned I was going to leave him. And I remember on his birthday that year, I took off to Georgia to talk to my daughter. And before I left to come back from Georgia, I already had a lawyer called and an appointment set on January 4th, 2022. He thought I was babysitting my grandson. I was. I wasn't lying there. But I also had an appointment with an attorney. And he called me. He texted me, said, when are you coming home? I'm like, I'm not, ever. You'll be hearing from my attorney. Goodbye. Funny, he then wanted to talk. And if anybody knows me, I gave you every opportunity. There is no second chance with me. When I'm done, when I say goodbye, second chances. I will never go back to that situation. I will never let anyone treat me like that again. Never. Never. And that's when I began my awakening process. That is when my kids were saying, oh, Mom, just don't worry about her. She's going through a divorce. And I was going through a divorce, but I was also going through an awakening. And why I'm setting up this YouTube channel is to show you how to get unstuck. Because I was stuck. I was really stuck. But there are creative ways you can get unstuck. And you have to take a leap of faith. Just take a leap of faith. I will never go back to the Matrix. I will never fall for another player. I will never fall for another narcissist. Because the one thing you do when you start your awakening process is you reprogram your subconscious. You remove the negativity. And that doesn't mean you're not going to have negative thoughts or things aren't, we're human. So we're going to have, living the human experience. So you are going to have challenges. But challenges, you can work through and be over it. Total chaos. There's the negative is total chaos. Get it out, let it go, and let that person go. Because if somebody is bringing you nothing but chaos, get them out of your life. Because it's only going to get worse. It's only going to get worse. It never gets better. Never. Not unless you both go through counseling and you both take the steps. I know many people that have gone to counselors and their marriage was saved. Our marriage, there was no chance in hell that marriage was ever going to be saved. Nor my first marriage, because I was never going to put up for Blair. I'm not an option. And I never will be. And as a child, I was placed on a back burner. Margie can take care of herself. I was a child giving my own asthma medicine and taking care of myself until I would be like, Mom, I think I need some help here. But I was always put on a back burner. So throughout my life, whether it was a marriage, a relationship, a job, friendship, I was always put on the back burner because that's how I was raised. I thought it was normal until I knew it wasn't. Until I knew I am worth so much more than that. And I will never let anybody ever treat me like that ever again. A funny fact that happened a few months ago, and my daughter, and I'm smiling and laughing, that time I wasn't laughing, but I have a TikTok channel, and my daughter was looking at it and she was getting like, oh my God, listen to my mother. I'm talking about my awakening process and how I totally transformed and the steps that I went through to get there, because I am Christ conscious. I am spiritual. It is different from the norm. I've never been the norm. I always did everything that wasn't normal. That's just me. So she took the TikTok video and showed my old doctor, and he goes, I don't even recognize your mother. And she called then she called my doctor where I live now and said, my mom really needs to see a neurologist. There's something seriously wrong with her. So, and then she fessed up. She's my baby. Well, Mom, and I said, Doctor, he did not even recognize you anymore. I said, good. Then I did my job to totally transform myself. I am no longer that person. No one will ever walk all over me again. No one will ever treat me bad again. No one will ever put me on a back burner again because I love myself. And when you love yourself, you're not going to let anybody else take you down. You will take them down, but you will not let them take you down. So yes, I have changed. I have done my job, so thank you very much. So the next time you see him, tell him thank you, because that's exactly what I was doing, transforming myself. I'm happy. I bought my first home at the end of last year. And I remember the internet guy, when he came to my house, he said, you did this all by yourself? I'm like, yeah, I did. At first I caught it kind of strange and maybe a little cocky, but I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm a strong woman. I can do whatever I want to do, as long as it's legal. But what I'm saying is, if you're stuck, you can get unstuck. It's not an easy process to reprogram your subconscious. It's hard when a lot of your friends used to have just kind of dissipate into the background because we're no longer on the same vibration level. And I mean that earnestly. Because my goal in life is to ascend as high as I can in this lifetime. And I know with my Father beside me, and my angels, and my ancestors, I will ascend high. My whole life, I knew there was something else I had to do. And with my awakening process, it's for me to tell you my story and to walk you through the steps how you can go through the awakening journey and transform yourself. Please keep in mind that if you're battling from depression, if you're sick and ill, please make sure you seek the proper help. I'm just here to tell you my story